Hello and welcome back to the show. So, I am doing a spontaneous Friday night episode for you all. I was talking to a client. We started talking about this healing work. I got all fired up talking about it, and she was like, "You need to do a live." So, we have this idea of going live together because she is someone who has healed a lot of her anxious attachment. And we are about to go live on Instagram. And I wanted to record this for the pod as well. So you can feel free to listen wherever you prefer. So give me a moment. I'm going to hop on live. We have Miss Luna here, if you can hear her meowing. And let's do the damn thing. Hello, Instagram Live. We are doing a spontaneous Friday night live from my apartment in San Diego, California. I was Voxering with one of my high-level one-on-one clients, and we were talking about what makes this work different than all of the other healing modalities out there. And I got so excited talking about it because in my experience, being trained in all these different types of therapeutic modalities when I had my career in the traditional therapy field, something about each of them just wasn't landing. It was like I would, go from one to the other to the other, and there were different parts of each one that I loved, but none of them were like, oh, this is what I want to specialize in. This is what I want to use with all my clients. It was kind of like I was using a culmination of all of them to really see what I found the most effective, both personally in my own therapy as well as with my clients. And when I left the therapy field and I joined this online coaching world and I met my mentor, and she trained me in her healing method, the art of connecting and expanding, it all came together for me. It was like all of the, past things where I was like, I love this part of DBT, but something about it still feels, too rigid for me. Or I love CBT, but we're not getting into the body. Or I love parts work, but, we're still not getting enough into the body, or we're not helping people like truly expand. Like there was just so many pieces of each of them that I loved and that deeply, deeply resonated, but none of them enough where I was like, this is my bread and butter of healing until I started doing my mentor's healing method, which is really a culmination of many different facets of healing. So she was trained by Dr. Gabor Mate and did the compassionate inquiry program. So we do a lot of inner child healing. There's also parts of it that just stem from her own, experience healing her own attachment and her own experience in the spiritual world and teaching yoga and all of these different things that culminated to this magic potion where she was like, oh, this is what actually helps people heal the nervous system and feel safe to expand. So many therapeutic modalities just focus on healing to feel regulated enough to function enough, but not actually feel fully safe in your body to create the life you want. And I've always been someone that's like, I just want to feel able and safe to create a life beyond my wildest dreams. So when I found her and she started training me in this through doing it on myself and kind of using myself as this case study of this work, and her using this with herself and realizing what works, what doesn't work, it made me realize that all of these different puzzle pieces that were coming together was all leading up to this. So my main experience in the therapy world, I was trained in CBT and DBT and internal family systems, parts work, solution focused therapy, narrative therapy, relational therapy, like all these different modalities. And I loved different parts of each one. And so I was like, if I could just take this part of DBT and this part of parts work and this part of this and put it all together, which is essentially, what I used to do in the therapy world is I would just kind of draw from different modalities. But I was like, if I could put all of these together and then some, that would be the perfect therapy for me to use on myself and my clients. And that's what I have found. And that's why I get so passionate about it, is that this healing modality literally leaves no, what's that expression? No stone unturned. It covers all of it. It covers all the subtle, sneaky energies, all of the protectors, all of the things that we need to process in order to fully rewire, not just regulate, but fully rewire our nervous systems so we feel safe to expand. So that is why I'm so passionate about this work, because it feels like I finally found something that works, that's not missing things, and that truly helps heal and expand. So tonight, I am having a very special guest on. This is one of my clients and my brand designer, Allie, and we were on Voxer not too long ago. And she was asking if, part of the work that we have been doing together for the past year involves parts work. And I said, yes, parts work is definitely one part of this healing modality, but this healing modality is also so much more than that. So we talked a little bit about that. And as I was explaining to her, like all the different facets of this and how it differs from other modalities, she was like, you need to go live on this. And I was like, it's like Friday night. I'm in my pajamas. My hair is so oily. I'm like, just like a couch potato right now, working on some content and reading and just like having a chill night. And then I was like, you know what? I need to shower anyway. So I might as well shower, wash my hair, and go live. And then I was like, well, what if we do a live together where you can talk about your experience with this work? Because, I talk about it all the time. And as you guys know, I share testimonials on my page, but there's something so different about hearing it from someone who is doing it also, right? So you're having kind of a different perspective, a fresh taste on it. And yeah, so we were like, oh, we could plan a live. And then she was like, tonight? And I was like, oh my God, let's do it. So this is our spontaneous Friday night live. I'm going to have her join and we're going to just do a quick chat about this. So drop any questions in the comments. And let me unplug my headphones so that I can hear her. So hold on one second. Okay, I think the mic is still on, but now I'll be able to hear Allie on the live. All right. So let me see if I can invite her to join because technology. Okay, let's do this. Invite to join. There we go. Boom. And then anyone drop some questions. Okay, Allie, I just invited you. So hopefully this will work. Yay! Hello! Oh my God, welcome to the live.
Oh my God.
Thanks for doing this with me.
Of course. Anything for you.
Oh, I
have my crystals. It helps me.
Yes.
Be calm.
Yes, that's why I keep all my crystals right at my desk too.
Yes, and can you see me well? Because I hate bright lights at night.
So yeah, no, I can see you.
Okay.
It's perfect.
Okay.
This is so exciting because something that we've been working on a lot is helping you feel safe to be seen. And so what better way to practice than to be seen on the gram?
Yes, for sure.
Yay.
I'm so funny. I was just talking to a friend before, a designer friend, and we're like, we should go live one day. And then I was like, oh my gosh, so scared to go live. And then it literally happened.
Oh, look at that. This is good practice then. I love it. Perfect timing. So for those of you who don't know who Allie is, do you want to do like a brief introduction of who you are and what you do and the magic that you give to this world?
For sure.
Lauren's here.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am a brand designer. I am an intuitive brand designer. So I read the energy of my clients' brand essence, and then I put it into a beautiful brand and yeah, so brand and web design. And so Rachel is my coach, and how I know Rachel is, before I worked with her, I created her branding.
Woo woo!
And as I was, yes, and I always knew that I wanted to do like some sort of, all I knew it was as inner child coaching at the time. I knew I wanted to do that type of thing. And it was through doing her brand. Because when I do people's brands, it's like, you know, when you're like doing like you're drawing something, you're like, oh my God, they have beautiful eyes. You just like really fall in love with them.
Yeah.
Like that was what was happening with your brand. I'm like, oh my God, she's just so like uplifting and grounding. And then like it was after your brand, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to work with her. So
yes, it was the best thing ever because we were, you know, working on my brand. I was like obsessed with it. I fell in love with it. And then we met in New York to do my business cards. And then I think it was during that same trip, maybe like a few days later, where we were talking about you doing a course and like doing part of this work. And then you were like, oh wait, no, I need to work with you. And then we hopped on the phone and then like a year later, here we are.
yeah.
So
It was like so, I was like meditating. I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. And I was like, yeah, when I get like really anxious and I kind of don't feel like real, I'm like, I just like don't know what I'm doing. I just called you and I was like,
yeah,
okay. Like,
I know. It was just like such a karmic, symbiotic relationship. Like you were meant to do my branding. I was meant to do this work with you and just a beautiful soul contract.
Yeah,
So
contract.
yeah.
That's my mom's friend, Dina.
Oh, hi, Dina. Thanks for joining. I know I wasn't sure who would join because it's like a random Friday night, but I'm so happy you guys are here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to just have you share a little bit about this work. And, you know, I gave a little intro of like why I feel like this work is different. As someone who's, you know, been in traditional therapy for like my whole life and then found this work. And then as someone who worked in traditional therapy and now left to do this work. So from your perspective, you know, given any past experiences or just kind of where you started and now we're at like over a year later of doing this work together. Yeah, what's your experience of it for those who are wanting to know?
That's an incredible year. I'll say anyone watching this, like, before I get into it, just like Rachel literally is just life changing. So yeah, I've always been very spiritual. I have done therapy. I had started to understand the somatic work before I came to New York, or before I left New York and came here. I had a somatic therapist. So I started to see that there was other things that I could do. And it wasn't until when I realized I needed to do deeper work, like when I realized it was like the subconscious, you know, because I have done the think positive and all the things. I also, the to be magnetic work. Was one day I realized I was like, oh my God, these money wounds, like I can't think my way out of them. This is wired. It was like I felt, even, you know, you talk about rewiring and like I didn't even really know that word in that context. I just like knew, I'm like, this is wired in there, you know. And so that's when I was like, I need to kind of get to the root of it. And that's when I knew I needed to do inner child stuff. And yeah, so after realizing I want to do with you, it's just been like, I mean, first of all, like the support, like that's probably one of the biggest things. Is just like being able to talk to you, like not whenever, but like most of whenever. Just like having that support, like especially as an entrepreneur, is, you know, it's like it's scary. Like it's just so nice to have support. It's just especially as an entrepreneur, and just being able to, like, you know, because I knew cognitively a lot of things about it, like, oh, I like this because of XYZ, like I'm a people pleaser because of this part of my childhood, like I've always known that. And I think a lot of people do, like when you talk to people about trauma, and now that I know this, like even now talking to people about trauma, they think it's just knowing where the things come from, but to actually have you help me get into my body and like actually feel that's like a different thing. Like a lot of that therapists, at least the ones I've had, like don't do that. And I think all people think trauma is, it's just like, oh, I know this came from this. It's like, but that's not going to actually help you. So I think actually feeling a lot of those feelings, yeah, had just like been so like instrumental. And now just knowing that, you know, and like being able to, hi Ruby, my designer friend Ruby.
Oh, hey Ruby. Look at all these designers showing up.
Yeah. And just being able to like, yeah, know because obviously like the I'm gonna put my computer like helps. Like now knowing like the parts that, you know, you call the inner child, like the parts, the maladaptive, like coping ways that, you know, aren't my highest self. Like, you know, when they come out now, it's like I can know. I'm like, okay, I'm not just being crazy. Like this is what's happening for me.
Yeah.
This is coming up, and like being able to take more of like a second to do that, you know, like with my partner, and like I do that this morning, honestly, and also just like with the people pleasing, like that we've been really healing that, and knowing and realizing, you know, like my whole life, you know, thinking, oh, I'm just such a sweet person, but like realizing a lot of that sweetness is me just feeling safe in front of other people, because that's how my nervous system knows. It's just like being really, really sweet, even when it's not aligned, even if I'm like annoyed, or like if I'm really anxious or around other people that make me feel nervous, and I'm just like overly nice. Like I love those personality. I mean, yeah, I am nice, but like realizing now that a lot of it has been like trauma responses is like wild. So being able, and now I talk to my friends and they're like, oh my God, you're like not like you're like completely, you're more direct, and you're not like apologizing as much and things like that. It's just like so incredible. And like, and then just showing up here, like for my business, and just being able to show up like, and because I had been showing up before, but the difference was when I wasn't feeling well or like feeling 100% myself, I wouldn't. And so like this work with you, because we have, you know, you see me go through stuff, is like, you still allowing me so I can show up exactly as I am. And like, I shouldn't like stop showing up because like I'm going through a shitty time. Because then I mean, like, because we're humans and we go through shitty times.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how, you know, we show our nervous system that we're safe to show up just as we are, because we are human. And that's part of, like we were talking about parts work earlier. It's like, those are the part of us that feel like we have to be perfect or show up in a certain way or control everything. And it's like, when we allow ourselves to just show up, however that may look like, we show all parts of ourselves that we're safe to be seen, not just the parts that feel comfortable. So, I mean, I think
that's been the biggest thing for me out of like all, I mean, a lot of it is big, but this has been my biggest, is just like accepting myself when I'm not 100%. Because even like right now, I'm not fully 100%. And you know, so it's been like a weird week, but I'm still like showing up on stories, and sometimes my nervous system is, whoa, like you're showing up and you feel like this, and I'm like, yes, I am.
Yes. Like, it's huge. Like you did stories tonight, and now this live, like, you know, a year ago, your nervous system would have been like, get the fuck out of town.
Oh my gosh. I remember once I did a live, you encouraged me to do a live once before we did this work together. And I remember going live, I still haven't gone live by myself. I don't know. Maybe soon. I don't know.
Maybe one day.
And like I was so I was like, what?
Yeah, which is a huge deal. And look at you. I mean, like, it's just, it's amazing to witness, because when we feel like we have to hide, and it's, you know, again, like showing our nervous system that we're not going to be accepted or we're going to be judged, like we're always just trying to prevent that criticism, because it always goes back to that attachment wounding of feeling like, you know, if we're judged or criticized, then we have that risk of being abandoned or perceiving abandonment. So I think, you know, going back to the anxious attachment, it's like, it's just, you're such a beautiful example of how how healing that literally affects all areas, right? Because I think a lot of people just associate it with, you know, their relationship or, you know, just the day-to-day, how they're feeling, which those are big parts of it. But it's also looking at how our anxious attachment shows up in our work, how we're relating to clients, like the ability that you now have to communicate assertively with clients and like really feeling safe to step into your leadership. It's huge, right? That's such a huge thing. And that's not something that, you know, necessarily felt safe a year ago, or let alone 6 months ago, right? It's like this continual practice of, am I relating through attachment wounding, through trauma, or am I relating through my most powerful self and my most authentic self? And I think to what you were speaking to earlier, it's like so many people don't even know that they have trauma, right? We like the amount of times I'm like, oh, like I hear, oh, we don't have trauma. Like I had such a great childhood. It's like, I used to say the same shit. I would be like, I have the best childhood ever. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, wait, all of us have stuff to process, because just the pure nature of being a child can feel really scary, especially when we have, things in our childhood that, make us feel like we're not going to get our needs met or that we're going to be abandoned. So I think, yeah, just witnessing you doing this work and allowing it to shift how you're relating in your relationship, in your friendships, in your, working relationships with your clients, like just really noticing how it affects every area, because the nervous system, as we know, is literally the blueprint for all of it. So, and even just you like being able to trust your intuition and being like, oh, I know these things, but I also need to do some deeper layers of healing them, because knowing them is, only one part of it, but actually like feeling safe to relate differently and process that emotion. It's everything.
And there's always layers. There could be layers forever.
Yeah, there's always layers, right? Like how many times have we been like, oh yeah, like I feel like we've hit this like deepest layer, and then a deeper layer shows up, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to perpetuate this feeling of like we're always healing forever and ever, because I do think we get to a point where we have enough internal safety where we're really just like fully expanding, and then we are able to catch when those old patterns are coming up. But it just means that there's so many more layers to us as humans than we even can comprehend,
Yeah, it's like there's layers, but it also all connects still. It's like
Yeah.
one connected blob, but with layers.
Right, exactly. It's like all the things that you're like, oh my God, I have so many different things to work on. And then you're like, oh no, it all goes back to the same root of just feeling safe to be you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been incredible.
Yay. Is there anything else you want to share just in terms of anxious attachment specifically, or just anything that we missed?
Sure. Well, yeah, I talked about just the people pleasing. I know you probably want me to talk a little bit about relationships, so I'll do a little bit. But yeah, just I tend to be more, not in romantic, and also just like friends, just like a little more anxiously attached, in terms of, yeah, just not feeling safe if like things aren't okay, or feeling graspy if I think someone's mad at me, or like, yeah, and just especially with it, like, like if you sneeze, so like with my fiance, like, generally like this work has fully changed that, in terms of like we were never like bad, but like, definitely when an argument would happen, like I'm definitely the more anxious, I become more anxiously attached, and then he becomes more avoidant. So it's like I'm kind of like moving forward and being like louder, and then he's retracting. And now with this work, like, we've been talking about like just like how, and he's been, healing in his own time, just like allowing to speak up, and I kind of go back a little bit, so then it's like a little more balanced. Yeah, so that's been like really, really incredible. And yeah, it was funny, before this work, I like found out about the love languages, and that helped us. And I would tell people like, yeah, like know your love language, like that really helped. Like this is way better.
Yeah.
Like, you know your love language. Like you're acting like a 2-year-old,
Right. Exactly. Yeah, because there's so much to that love language, right? Like I can say, oh, my love language is touch, and because it's touch, I need to be like attached to the hip of my partner the whole time. And I could use that as a very valid excuse and be like, yep, I got to just stay by him all the time because I need the touch, but not realizing that that's actually my activated inner 2-year-old, and knowing that like we can have our love languages, and also it's the energy in which we're relating to them that determines if we're, relating through our inner child or
yeah, for sure. Even if like, like I can see how someone like can look at like this work and be like, I'm like a little more, I'm like pretty secure, like I was like pretty, but this, like I feel like I was good amount secure, but like this still, it just like really, really like levels it up, and like really helps you see like so many things. There's also another thing is like most people think they're fine when nothing's happening until like act up. you know,
Right.
and then they act up and then they're like, oh my God, I don't even know who that was. I don't know, like, who just came out. Like, that was not me. That was not my highest self. Like, that, like, I felt crazy. And then it can, you know, and then they'll forget about it like the next day. I think that's
Yeah.
like a big thing. So then they're in like ventral or like homeostasis, and they can like read your stories and be like, oh, I'm like totally fine. But
Yeah.
then, like, you know, they get activated. And I think that's, you know, I think people just like probably like block it out, or you just like, but yeah, that's like a
Yeah.
big thing. It's just like, it's, you know, when you're activated, you want to be able to like come at it like from your adult self. You know, it's not like it's okay. It's like, it's not like, oh, I only get activated like an active 2-year-old like once a month. Like, that's still not okay.
Right. It's still looking
So,
at like, oh, why is that happening? Like, what's happening for me? So, and I think that's something you and I have talked about too, is that, and I've experienced both, you know, with my own healing journey and then working with you and my other clients, is like, we think that once the trigger is over, it's like, okay, we processed it, right? But then the actual work is when we're feeling regulated again, let's actually process what was coming up during the dysregulation. Because there have been times where, you know, people get dysregulated and it's like, okay, I got myself to regulation. But this work is like, we don't want to just get to regulation. We want to understand what was prompting the dysregulation to begin with, so that one, it maybe doesn't happen as much. And then when it does, we know how to give ourselves what we're needing, give our inner child what they're needing in that moment, so that they're able to feel safe. And that's how we relate differently and build the secure attachment.
yeah. And something that came to me when you're talking about dysregulation was like, before, I mean, like, you know, people talk about like, oh, I cried, I feel better, like I released it. Like, there's a difference, and I didn't realize until this work with you, between like a grounded, calm release of like crying and versus like a 2-year-old like crying tantrum, and then they're like, oh, I released it. Like, that's
Yeah.
completely different than like an actual like, I'm feeling this from like a grounded place from like my highest self versus like I'm having a because you do feel better after a tantrum. Like, it's true.
Yeah. Oh,
But
1,000%.
yeah, I think that's like a big just like distortion. Yeah, that's like a
Yeah.
big thing that I realized, like just like really feeling things from that highest self versus like feeling things from that like dysregulated 2-year-old and thinking that that's like okay.
Yeah. No, it's such a good, important point to bring up, because I mean, yeah, I've always been such a big crier, and I'm like, okay, I cry a lot, so that I'm just releasing all the time. And then I'm like, oh no, there's very different types of crying. So, you know, it doesn't mean that we don't feel better after having a cry, no matter what kind of cry it is, but it's like the difference between, yeah, a kid's going to feel better after having a tantrum and like releasing the anger or the sadness, but that's an unsafe, dysregulated release, rather than actually feeling safe to be with the pain, right? Dysregulation is avoiding the pain. It's like, I feel so afraid of this pain that I'm dysregulated, versus I feel safe to be with the pain and I feel regulated. And in that safety of experiencing the pain, that's when you're able to like fully release it. So I know that's something that, you know, isn't always clear in the moment, because when we're feeling dysregulated and we're crying, sometimes it really does feel like, okay, I'm just like releasing all of this. And so being able to look at like, who's coming out right now, right? Like, is this 2-year-old me? Is this 5-year-old me? Is this adult me? And continuing to get curious around it.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah. Anything else? I'm just trying to think if I wanted to ask you anything else too.
Yeah.
Let's see. We covered relationships. Ooh, how has your anxious attachment affected your relationship with money?
Oh, I have to think. I feel like this is the active. This is like the active. I need to go deeper with this session.
In terms of how you relate to money.
Anxious attachment and money. I mean, definitely like, you know, getting to the root of how I think about money. In terms of like an anxiously attached standpoint, I think honestly, I think I get a little avoidant with money, but like, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's hard for me to think.
And keep in mind the avoidance. So with anxious attachment, we can have a deep sense of avoidance, and with avoidant attachment, we can experience deep anxiety. So if you're relating through something, or if you're relating to something through anxious attachment, the avoidance can actually be helping you avoid feeling what the anxious attachment is bringing up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Like when I get scared of like money, I like tend to avoid. But in terms of like, let's say, yeah, like letting go of the how, I think rather than grasping on, like when you say, when I'm like, oh, I'm going to be making X, like, because I, with my brand projects, I know what I'll be making for the next like 3 months. And just like you being like, you actually don't know, and like really releasing it more. Definitely is, just something I feel like, because I feel like anxiously attached people just want to know the how a lot, and want to, and I think they want to know the how, and just like not like they're not okay with not knowing the need to know, be an anxious attached thing.
Big time.
So, I think definitely through that way, and the avoidance. Does that answer it?
No, I mean that's everything, right? It's like being with the unknown. So both in relationships and business and in life in general, it's like, I would catch you saying like, I'm going to make this amount. It's like, we don't know, right? Like it's kind of being with that unknown of, we know that X amount of money is coming in from X amount of clients or projects. And if we're open to receiving more money or receiving, money from different sources, because a lot of people think that we just get money through our businesses or our jobs. But when you really start like tapping into the energy of being open to receiving money, it can come literally from anywhere, right? Like those random, my friend just got a random check in the mail yesterday for $300. Like, so being able to sit in the unknown, and then also the energy to which you're relating to the money in the moment. So it's like with relationships, when we get graspy of our partner, it's the same with money. It's like, I'm grasping onto the money I have because I feel like if I release it, it's not going to come back to me. Or if I actually approach it instead of avoiding it, I'm going to feel so much fear that, I'm just not going to have enough. And that brings up like survival fear and all of that. So relating to money through a sense of safety when healing your anxious attachment is looking at it and saying, I know that if money is energy, I know that I'm safe to release it and receive it, and to allow it to circulate, and to really release, the how, like we talked about, which I think for anyone, regardless of your attachment style, I think for anyone, that's the most difficult part, right? Is really your brain just like goes to this part of, trying to figure it out. Like, oh, how am I going to make X amount in this amount of time? And then being able to say like, oh, I don't actually need to know how. And that to release that control can feel really scary, especially when money is tied to our survival.
For sure. And I could see how like that translates to someone like who's not in a relationship. Like if they just start seeing someone and they're like grasping on to, like texting them, or not like thinking that if they ungrasp, they'll like let them know. It's like just trusting, I think you have to, it really helps. I think anxiously attached people just probably don't have a certain level of trust and faith in the universe, and again, like I knew I had to, I always had some level of trust in the universe. And like, you hear about that in the spiritual communities a lot, and like thinking positive, like just trust. But like if you're like fight or flight, like you won't trust. So it's just like the trauma informed. I think that was when I was really like, oh, I really have to work with her, because like I was super into manifesting, and then I think you talk about how like trauma helps manifest, or like trauma informed manifestation really helps, and that's when it was like I have to do this.
Because that's a big part in the spiritual world, is talking about manifesting. But then when people don't address the trauma, and how if you're in survival mode, you don't feel safe to actually receive what you're manifesting. I mean, I had parts, or I had points in my business where I'd actually reached what I had been manifesting, and then it felt so new and foreign to my nervous system that like I subconsciously self-sabotaged it, right? So if you're not aware of how trauma and your nervous system is affecting what you desire and what you're manifesting, it's going to arrive. Maybe, you know, you're able to attract it and it shows up, but then like, are you able to hold it? Right. And you and I even talked about that tonight, is like this ability to hold more than we think we can, because it feels really scary.
Yeah. And yeah, like in terms of my business, like you're really help, like with the smaller new offerings, like that's really freaking me out. But it's like, you know, I'm telling you how I want to have more like other things that might not just be the brand, like other ways that don't take away from the branding. And just like, I feel like that's where, you know, someone not doing this work can sit there and be like, oh, maybe I could do other offers or different things. But like, you know, like it's like right now I need that nervous system holding as I am doing like a smaller offer, you know, like a scary. So
yeah, like, totally. Because your nervous system has gotten,
like my computer light is another light right now.
Oh, okay. No worries. Yeah, because that nervous system, your nervous system is like, oh, I know this to be safe, right? I know that this is like my signature offer. This feel, I mean, I felt the same way.
You know, it's like, yeah, all of them are very different, you know, but the masculine part of it, it's like, first we have this strategy, then we do this, then it takes this amount of time. Like, even though each, like, that's the container, like the masculine container for me, where like, that's where I'm intuitively like flowing, and each brand is different, but I have that same all the time. So to think of like a new structure is scary. Yeah, I think that's definitely when like nervous system regulation comes in handy for sure.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way when I went from just doing one-on-ones to then doing groups and retreats and now courses. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's the same work I'm doing, but it's a different container and a different structure. And I'm like, whoa, this feels different.
Yeah.
So being able to have that nervous system, the co-regulation, you know, I think this is especially huge for entrepreneurs, because building a business literally brings out, as you know, it brings out all of the trauma responses. It brings out all of the, you know, oh, I know I can trust the universe, but like, how am I actually integrating and relating differently and doing things outside of my comfort zone when that hasn't fully felt safe before?
Yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah, putting it, you know, knowing something versus being able to really put it into action. It's just two different things.
Business and now wedding planning.
Yeah, business and wedding planning.
Out there.
Yeah, exactly. First we got through the engagement, and now it's time to plan the wedding, and we're like, all right, these are all the bringing out all the trauma responses. So yeah. Well, yeah, I think we covered everything, unless there's anything else you wanted to share.
I can't think.
Yeah. Do you want to,
different than I thought. Yeah. I think I also blacked out. I'm not sure.
That's okay. Either way, it's totally fine. I do that all the time. Like I record these podcast episodes and I'm like, I have no idea what I just said, but someone's going to listen. It's going to be fine. So this is a perfect example of doing something that your nervous system feels a little nervous about, and then you're showing it that you're still alive. And look at that. The next live, you're going to be like, no, piece of cake. So 2 final things, and then we'll wrap up. One, I would love for you to share if people are wanting branding, because you guys know my sun logo that I have tattooed on me, and that my other client is also going to tattoo on her finger. My whole brand was done by Allie. So if you are looking for a brand designer and you are ready to really take your business to the next level, like before branding, I mean, I am very much design challenged to begin with. But even if you're not, like I have friends that know how to use Canva, they know how to do the basic design stuff, but I see their stuff and I'm just like, yes, you can get away with this. It's good enough. But why do you want to settle for good enough? Why don't you want the full on shebang? Because that shows yourself that you can really commit to your business. So for me, getting branding was, you know, just a huge part in me feeling like I can fully take myself and my business seriously and like show up. I did it.
Just gotten out. And
yeah. Yeah, I think I maybe had one or two clients. Yeah, totally. I was like, I'm not wasting no time. I want to do the thing. So, when are you booking next and where can people find you?
Right now you can find me on my Instagram.
Yeah. So
You can access it through here. My website is coming so soon, so you'll be able to actually book there. But until then, you can DM me. I'm booking a full brand package for the next one is like end of May. So if you want a tattooable logo,
yes.
literally tattoo, and something that helps empower you to show up, that's what I'm booking next. And yeah, it's perfect for people that can actually design too, because I'm just giving them the tools and the brand, and then they can have fun in Canva.
Yeah, then they actually could run with it.
But since then, and I'm not sure when I'll do my next like brand energy reading, but I'll share here. I'm gonna also be offering, like, because I read the people's energies, and that's kind of what creates the brands. I'm gonna be offering like little brand energy readings and to help you gain clarity on your branding, and yeah, like if you're not ready for the branding yet, and also custom things. So yeah, and then this is what I'm exploring with Rachel, is breaking into smaller things and going a take away from the big things, because the big brand package is where the magic's at. But I think the smaller brand reading is going to be fun.
Yeah. And this ties into like embracing all parts of you, because a big part of you is the intuitive, right? For those that don't know, Allie's mom is an amazing medium. I did a session with her. She's just amazing. We're shouting out Lynn. She's amazing. So yeah.
Recommendations.
Yes, all the recommendations. If you need a medium, a designer, a healer, we got you covered. We got you covered with all the things.
Even your life is a trauma coach, a brand designer.
I know. I think you have those three. What else do you need? I think that's totally fine. Because I feel like our work too is like business coaching, and it's, we cover all the bases.
Exactly.
I love it. And then my final question, because I am enrolling for my Come Home to Yourself group, which is a group specifically for anxiously attached women, which is starting this Tuesday on my dad's birthday, March 14th. And it is a 4-month-long group. It is 12 different modules covering different topics. So if someone is listening to this and they are on the fence about joining, what would be your words of wisdom for them?
Just fucking do it. Like, why do you want to stay stuck? No, I mean, it literally changes so many areas of your life. And like, especially people that feel energetically stuck and like they can't get out of it, It's just like this really puts you over the edge, like just to have that support, to have, especially now I've been working with Rachel one-on-one, and my next level is, I was so safe in just being one-on-one, but like now I'm in her group, because I'm like, now it's like I can be safe with you, but like allowing other people to, like, to me it's like groups of people, like to allow others to see me, all parts of me, like, is scary for me. So in terms of group, like, it's incredible for that. And just like, I just feel like, yeah, like your life will just fully soar, and just like, why not? Like, it's just like the best thing you can do, and it just like makes like other areas of your life so much better. Like, I feel like some, people make her choice, like, oh, I want this kind of coach, or I want to invest in this. It's like, but if you do this first, it like makes everything else that you want to invest in just like, so it's just better. I feel like this is the first thing, everything. I feel like I need, before like brand people come to me, I'm like, first work with Rachel.
And then I'll send them to you.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just so important. Like, it's just such important work. It's just like, like, just like how I'm feeling now compared to how I feel before, just like, especially people think they're anxious, they're like, oh, I have anxiety, but it's like, no, it's like actually like, there's just stuff you're avoiding. And when you actually, like, sometimes if I'm anxious, I don't know why, now I can take really long, deep breaths and just like feel where in my body is the anxiety, and if I'm lucky, like, cry it out, and then I don't feel anxious. It's like anxiety is just like, it's just protecting you from feeling things, and people just like attach onto these things, like, oh, I'm an anxious person, I'm this, and then they just like to live. And it's like, you don't have to live like that. You know,
Yeah.
not that you're always perfect after, it's just you recognize it and you're like, why am I anxious? Because of this, what's behind this? And then it's just, why wouldn't you want to live not anxious all the time? Like, why not?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you and I both know what it's like to live chronically anxious and, you know, the difference of not having to live like that. And so, yeah, why not? Why not is the perfect question. And I think you described so beautifully. It's just like that foundation, right? I think of it as like in the dance world, how ballet is described as the foundation that makes doing all the other types of dance easier. It's like this is the foundation where if you then go to branding or go to anything else, it's like you're more connected to who you are, and then you're clear on what you want for your life. So
Yeah, for
it
sure.
all connects.
For sure.
Yeah. And I love that you're doing the group now, because it just is that next level of relational healing, right? Like feeling safe to be seen by other people that, you know, you don't know as well, you're not as comfortable with. It just domino effects into everything else. And even just like the fact that you've had family members that have said to you, like, or friends, right? Like, oh, your energy is different, or like, oh, this thing that would have made you anxious, you're acting totally fine, you know,
Yeah.
like it's just amazing when other people can feel that energy as well.
Yeah. I think that's been a fun thing about like seeing like there's actually a stronger, more direct part of my personality that like I didn't realize was there. It's just really cool.
Yeah, getting to know yourself in a whole new way. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this impromptu live tonight. I love our spontaneity. We were like, all right, let's do it.
Oh my god. Yeah. If I would have got to wait, like I would have, but I'm glad we did. Sometimes when I have to do things, I'm just like, I have to do it now or else I'm just gonna make like,
yeah. Right. It's like, let's just do it while we're in the moment thinking about it. So thank you so much for coming on and just being such an inspiration for other people, you know, both with being an entrepreneur, doing this work, you know, branding, all of it. It's like, it's just beautiful to see. And yeah, it's just, I love doing this work with you so much.
And thank you for everything done and guiding me and all the things. Everyone just do it. Just do it.
Oh, thank you. All right. I love you so much. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks again for coming on. Bye. All right, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, I feel like I was at a weird angle for you all tonight, but I hope you enjoyed that live with my client, Allie. I'm going to post it to the gram right now. And yeah, if you are, my hair is still wet. If you are looking for ways of doing this work, and you feel inspired by hearing Allie's story, please email me, rachelkellycoaching@gmail.com, or DM me on the gram, and we shall chat. I offer a free discovery call to see if it's a good fit. And I hope you guys enjoyed this so much. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Take time to come home to you. Love you all. Mwah.